In this video tutorial, I'm going to take you through the process of editing your rounds using ShotScope's brand new mobile editing tool. Last month, back in December 2022, ShotScope unveiled two brand new editors, one for the mobile app and one for the online dashboard, which you can access with your laptop or desktop computer. If you're interested in learning how to use that editor, then you can check out a separate tutorial that I've created using either the link in the card above or in the description below this video. I'll also share a link to that video at the end of this video. So in this video tutorial, we're going to take a look from the very beginning at how to edit your round. We'll start off with taking a look at how to take your round from your ShotScope H4 or V3 watch into your ShotScope account. Then what we'll do is we'll take a look at the full editing process. So we'll take a look at moving shots, adding shots, deleting shots, marking positional shots, as well as some of the key new features that have been added to the app. As well as that, we'll also take a look at how to add those penalty strokes that you may not have added when you've been out on the golf course. Finally, we'll finish up with taking a look at how to share your rounds with your friends or to social media. Now, in order to be able to make use of this brand new editor, you'll need to have the latest version of the ShotScope app on your mobile device. So let's begin the tutorial with checking how to make sure that you are using the latest version of the app. The first thing that I need to make clear is that to get the latest version of the ShotScope app, you'll need to go to either the Google Play Store or, in my case, the App Store. So I've searched for the ShotScope app here, and I'm just checking that I am on the latest version. So you'll see at the top here, I have an open option. I don't have the update option, which means I'm currently working on the latest version. If you haven't updated your app in a while, then the chances are you'll still be on an older version and you'll need to update it to be able to get the latest editing tool. Once you have updated and opened the app, ShotScope recommend that you log out of the app and then log back in just to make sure that you are running with the latest version. In this particular tutorial, I'm going to be working on an Apple device, so I've got an iPhone here and the iOS version of the app. But if you're an Android device user, then you'll be able to work through this tutorial too, because basically they are exactly the same. So first of all, let's take a look at how to bring our round from our device onto our ShotScope account and then hopefully be able to edit it. So I'm going to tap on open, which will open up the ShotScope app. And you'll see here at the top, we are on the rounds tab. So we're looking at all of our previous rounds on the ShotScope account. Now you'll see here, I'm looking at 2023. There's a little filter here. If I tap on that, I can see all of the different years where I have rounds saved as a ShotScope user. So I can go back to 2022, I can then tap on submit, and I can see all of my historical rounds here for that particular year. Now, a quick little bit of information here at this point. If you see any blue numbers, such as the +10, +6, or +12 here, those are rounds which are basically over par. If we have the red numbers, such as this -1 here, that means that it's an under par round. And if the number is grey, well, it'll have an E next to it or a 0, and that will be a level par round. A couple of other things to note. Some of these rounds, you'll notice there's a little, almost like a no entry sign on top of these statistics here on a couple of these rounds. That means that basically these rounds are rounds which I have chosen not to include in my statistics. And that's because these top 3 rounds are actually just rounds that I created to be able to create the tutorial for the online editor. So you can mark rounds as normal rounds, or you can choose to include or omit them from your performance statistics. And we'll cover that later on in this tutorial. So let's just jump back to 2023 here. And what I want to do is I want to highlight these 2 rounds that you see here, because these are rounds which have not yet been edited. So they don't have numbers next to them, they've got the pencil icon. So that's how we can tell that these haven't yet been edited. I want to bring a round from this H4 handheld into my ShotScope account. So how do I do that? Well, the first thing that we need to do is we need to make sure that the device is turned on. So this one is obviously on, and I've used it before, so it is paired with my device, and we have Bluetooth turned on the device. So hopefully when I tap on this connect device button, it should locate my H4 handheld and allow me to bring any rounds that are stored on this device across into my ShotScope account. You'll see just now it's connecting, it's now setting up, and at this point it's going to give me the option to sync my rounds. So I'm going to tap on sync rounds, and then it should see on the ShotScope device it's now bringing the round across, and the round should appear in here. It's just updating the data. Now I've got 3 different rounds here. I'm not going to go in and edit them all. I'm not going to edit every single stroke from these particular rounds. These have basically just been captured quickly to allow me to produce this tutorial. So I won't be including these in my stats. There won't be 18 holes to edit. We'll just take a look at editing the key holes to allow us to basically work through this particular tutorial. So the first thing is I want to edit one of these rounds. So let's just go to the bottom one here and we'll tap on that. And then this should bring up the edit view for the round. Now it gives you a quick overview. So you basically can see how many holes you've played, how many strokes you took. Once you have signed the round off, you'll be able to scroll down and see statistics for that particular round. We've not done that yet, so that's blank, but you can always come back in and check your rounds. And you can tap on holes at the top here to get a quick overview of each of your holes. Now along the bottom, you would see all of the different holes you've played. I only played the 3rd hole in this example, so I don't have any other holes here. But this is just a quick preview for you to take a look at. If I want to actually edit the round, I'm going to tap on this little pencil icon at the top right. And this takes me to the next screen, which will allow us to confirm the details for our round. Now, if you're experienced in using the previous version of the ShotScope app, this view here is a little bit different. And ShotScope have added a couple of new features here. So the first thing that they've done is they've basically condensed the menu. So there are the same options. In fact, there's a couple more options, but they've made them a lot smaller so we can fit more of them on screen, which means that we have to do less scrolling. You'll see here at the top, we've got details about the round, and we've got another tab here called scorecard. So this scorecard gives you a similar amount of information as you saw on the previous screen, but it now includes things like your stroke index and your putts. And stroke index is actually a new feature with the ShotScope editor. If I jump back to details, you'll see that we have the option to enter our course handicap in here. So you can select plus numbers right the way through to handicap here. So let's say, for example, my course handicap is 9. I can enter that in here and then I can click OK. You can choose your tee set. So at this point, you want to choose which tees you played off. ShotScope won't necessarily know the answer to this. It will know where the tees are, but it won't necessarily know which tees you are using. So you can select from here. You'll see there's quite a lot in this list. If I go for yellow, I can then tap OK. Let me just make sure I select it. So I'll go for yellow here and OK. If there are any issues with the pars on the course, let's say, for example, on your course, you play the white tees normally in general play, but there's one particular hole where you're not allowed to play from the whites, and the par, instead of being a 5, is actually a 4 because you're playing from the yellows on that occasion. You can tap on this little plus icon and you can basically create your own tee set. So you can go through all the holes and say, well, actually the 4th hole here is not a par 4, it's actually a par 5. And then what you can do is you can add this as a tee set, which means that every time you're editing your round, if you're playing from that group of tees, you will be able to select them. If you want to go back though, you just tap on the back button here and it takes you back to this view. The stroke index option here is brand new for this update. So if we go into stroke index, you can create your own stroke indexes for male or for female tees. So if I go to create men's stroke indexes and then click OK, you'll get all of the holes here, and you can basically work through from your scorecard to make sure that the stroke indexes are correct, because ShotScope won't know these for each of the courses. So for example, the first hole is stroke index 1, 2, all the way through to 18, which obviously isn't correct. I would tap on the hole and then I would choose the stroke index from here, tap OK, go to the next hole, choose the stroke index, tap OK, and basically work through. So once I've tapped on the review button, I can see all of the indexes here, and then when I tap add stroke indexes, it will add them for this particular course. But in this case, I'm going to leave that blank because at this moment in time, I've got to be honest, I don't know what ShotScope does with this information. I suspect it's probably tied into the course hub and perhaps the leaderboards. And there will be some statistics around stroke indexes, but at this moment in time, I'm going to leave that one blank for this tutorial, but you can look into that in your own time if you wish. Other two options here, share round on Course Hub and include round in performance statistics. If you share it on the course hub, it means that other users who are signed up to your course and part of the course hub can see your round, how you performed on the course, and it goes into the basic sort of the course hub area for the course that you play. You can uncheck that one though, and you can do the same with your statistics. So if you don't want this round to count towards your performance stats, which in my case I wouldn't, because I've only played one hole and it's just a practice round to generate data for this tutorial, I would uncheck that one as well. Now below that, you'll see there's a couple of key new buttons here. So edit, we're familiar with, that's always been there, but quick sign off is a new option that ShotScope have added. If I tap on quick sign off, it basically allows you to really quickly review your round and then sign off. So we've gone through, we've reviewed, we've checked, we're happy with it, and then we can basically click quick sign off. So what this does is it means that people who perhaps don't want to go through and fully edit all of the shots in their round, they just want to check the numbers add up, can quickly sign rounds off. Just be aware, if you do this, these rounds won't be included in things like the leaderboards, the course hub, and you won't be able to earn medals from rounds which you've quickly signed off because you've not gone through and edited all of the strokes. If you've chosen to do that, you can always tap back on the round though and go back up to the pencil, and then you can go through and tap on the edit button down here to go in and actually edit the round properly to make sure that it counts towards the medals, the leaderboards and the course hubs. Let me just exit this just for now though, and we'll go back to this view here because we're now going to take a look at how to properly edit our round. Rather than using this round here, which doesn't really have much data in it, I'm going to go to this round at the top, and you'll see I've played a few more holes on this one. So we've got at least 9 holes here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tap on the pencil at the top right like we did before. And I don't need to worry about this, although I've already gone through this for you. You get the chance to go through this at the very end of the editing process anyway, to make sure that you're happy with everything. So for the purposes of this demonstration, I'm just going to click on edit and sign off, and then we can get into the actual editing tool. Now again, there are some changes here with the look and feel of the editor. ShotScope has changed the placement of some of the options in the screen here, and it basically just allows for more room to edit. So the map has a much bigger view than it did before. So some of these numbers at the top, for example, were actually in a box just underneath. So we lost a little bit of screen space for our editor, but now we've got more room. Along the bottom, you'll see the holes. So if you are in the first hole, it will automatically show the hole. You can jump to the second, to the third, to the fourth, and so forth using these options here. So obviously if you've got 18, you'll have 18 holes. It just has the number of holes that you have played, and you can move back and forth through these. Let's go back to number 1 though, and we can see an overview of the hole and the strokes that we have played. So in this case, I can see that I've played a sand wedge from 68 yards to the green, and then I have 2 putted. But at this moment in time, the view is quite zoomed out, so I want to zoom in. So how do I zoom in? Well, what we do is we take 2 fingers and we pull apart. So 2 fingers pull apart lets you zoom in, and then if you want to move around the map, you can just simply click and drag, or tap and drag. So 1 finger to move around, 2 fingers to zoom in. If you want to zoom out, you basically just push your 2 fingers together. So 2 fingers apart to zoom in, 2 fingers together to zoom out. So let's zoom into this first shot here. So it knows that I'm on the tee here, okay, so it's positioned me on the tee. It's actually picked up really well in terms of the GPS positioning. But I want to basically move that around a little bit. So how do we move that stroke? Well, what we do is we simply tap on it, and by tapping on it, it will light it up with a blue marker around it, and this will allow you to move it around. Before we move it though, let's have a look at what information it's telling us about this particular stroke. So it's telling me that I shot from 71 yards here to the pin. My actual stroke was 68 yards, that's how far I hit it, and I left myself 18 foot from the pin. Then you'll see here it says lie type is the tee. So it knows that this is my first shot, it knows that I have played from the tee. If I want to move it around, I now have 2 options. So historically, with the old editing app, you had to tap on the shot, and then when the crosshair appeared, you could move it around. So you'll see I'm just basically dragging it and I can drop it where I want the shot to take place from. So let's just move it forward a little bit. And you'll see as I'm moving this, the distance is increasing or decreasing. So it will increase obviously if I go further back, and closer to the hole it will decrease. So I'm going to drop it just roughly where I had it before, just in there. Now what you have is another option to move around. So these arrows displayed below, they will appear when you have selected a stroke. So if you haven't selected a shot, you won't see these, you'll see the holes. But once you select a stroke like we have here, as highlighted in blue, we can actually move around using the arrows that you see at the bottom of the screen. So obviously if you want to go forward, you tap forward. If you want to go back, you tap back. You can go left and right as well using these options here. Now it's moving it in 1 yard increments. If I was to zoom out though, so 2 fingers together to zoom out, I can actually use these options on the right hand side to increase the yardage. So I can say actually every time I tap forward or back or left or right, please move me 5 yards. So you'll see now we're moving 5 yards forward, back, left and right. Or we can tap on the plus button and go to 10 yards. So this works better, obviously, if you're zoomed out quite far, you can just quickly move around. So for anyone who's been struggling a little bit with moving shots using this new feature, you can, if you want to, still zoom in and still tap and drag as you did before, which you might find a little bit easier. Your options here though are between 1, 5 and 10 yards. If we now want to go up and see the green, we could drag this way, but what I prefer to do is simply tap away from the stroke, which takes us back to the view here. And then what you can do is you can zoom out, or you can leave it zoomed in and now tap on this little flag. So let's tap on the flag and that will zoom us in to the green. Now just to show you, if I go back and look at the tee shot, it doesn't show me the information for the tee shot, and that's because we're looking at the green view. Now whilst we're here, you'll see that we are now looking at the hole slightly different to before. What you can do is you can tap with 2 fingers and turn in a clockwise or anti-clockwise motion, and this will rotate. So you'll see 1 finger up, 1 finger down to rotate, 2 fingers away from each other will zoom in. So because we're looking at the green view, that's why we can't see information about this stroke. So let's go back up to the green, and then again we're going to zoom in, and we can see that I've landed basically in the middle of the green here, and then I've putted from 18 foot to here, and then I've put from 5 foot to the pin. So if I'm happy with the first putt, I'll leave that in position. If I wanted to move the second putt, let's say I was actually a bit closer, then I can simply tap on the putt like we did before, and we can press and hold and move its position around. So let's say maybe I was actually further away, like over there, 8 foot, we can move it. You'll notice we've also got these arrows as well, like we did for our normal stroke or our approach from the tee. So we can now move 1, 2 or 5 feet around the green. So it's not 1, 5 or 10 yards, we're moving in feet because we're basically on the green. So let me zoom in a little bit, and now what I'll do is I'll move it to, let's say, 5 foot, and I can move back, left or right, or closer to the hole. Now, something that is also new with the latest update to this editing app is if I tap away from that stroke, so back into empty space, you'll see that when I tap on the stroke here, we get the option to either choose tap in or nudge. So if I want to get that view that we had a second to go up, all we have to do is tap on nudge, and then you'll see the arrows. If we want to see the tap in option, I'm just going to go back to here, reselect it. Now tap in basically allows you, if your stroke was within 1 foot, to either quickly say that you were long or short of the hole. So rather than tapping on here and dragging it around and trying to position it perfectly at the pin, if it's less than a foot, then all you have to do is tap on the stroke and then tap on tap in, and you just choose if you were short or long. So if you were short of the hole, you tap short, and obviously if you were long, let's tap back on that, tap in, long of the hole. So this means when it comes to our statistics for our shot scope rounds, we can be a lot more accurate in terms of whether we were short or long of the hole when we are marking our final putts. Whereas before, I've always just dropped them roughly, you know, within a foot of the pin, but I didn't know if it was going to list it as being long of the hole or short, which of course messes up your statistics. So that's a really good improvement from my point of view for this app. So let's just tap back into the empty space here. If we want to move the pin, Same process as before, you tap to select the pin and you can move the pin around 1, 2 or 5 foot, and you can use the arrows to move it around, or as you could before, you can press and hold on it and position the pin wherever you like. So far we've taken a look at basically how to move shots around for our tee shots, for our shots on the green, and how to make use of the new tap-in feature. Let's now take a look at how we can actually adjust our shots, and in particular the lie position. So let's go to the next hole. So I'm going to tap anywhere to get away from the selection, and I'm going to simply tap on number 2, which will take me to the second shot. Now, because I am on the green here, or I was in the previous view, I need to tap on the flag, and that will take us back to this view here. So let's zoom in, let's see what happened on this hole. So I hit a pitch and wedge, and I was onto the green with 2 putts. So I'm not going to bother working on this hole. Let's go to the next hole, because in this case, I've got a tee shot here, and then I've got a little wedge approach here. So I've missed the green on this par 3, and this shot here was from the fairway. Now, how do I know it was from the fairway? Well, apart from the fact that I played the stroke, you can kind of see here where we've got the rough and then we've got the fairway. But to confirm that ShotScope has recognised this as being on the fairway, I'm going to tap on it, and you will see it's listed as lie type as fairway. Now, if the people at the ShotScope team who are mapping the courses had actually marked this zone as being the rough, this one would have been listed as being in the rough. On the old version of the editing tool, you didn't have the option to change the lie type. So if this was actually in the rough, what I'd have to do before is grab it and move it along and try and reposition it in the rough, like that, which could adjust the distances, which isn't ideal. So let's just take that back to where it was, because now what we can do is we can simply tap on this option here, which is the more option. So I've selected the shot. I'm now going to tap where we've got the 3 dots in the blue box, and then you'll see you can change the lie type in here. So it says fairway, but we can tap on that and we can scroll down and choose anything. So let's say it was actually, I don't know, it was a rough. Change it to the rough, tap OK, and then tap confirm, and you'll see that that stroke is now taking place from the rough, but they've left it in the original position it was in. So if you find that it is listing a stroke as being somewhere where it actually wasn't, rather than dragging it around or moving using the nudge options, just simply tap on the stroke, go to the more option, and then choose lie type, and you can change it in here. So I'll change it back to fairway and tap OK. So this works quite well if it is winter greens and you're wanting to mark your final stroke as being on a green where they haven't actually mapped the temporary greens. Let's tap confirm, and we have now applied the changes to that particular stroke. Now let's take a look at how we can change the club that we have used. You'll see on screen I have the sand wedge used here, so I was using the ShotScope H4 handheld. I basically took my sand wedge, tapped it onto the device, but then before playing my shot I decided to change to my pitching wedge, but I forgot to tap it back on the device, so it only recorded the shot being the sand wedge, which was the initial club I chose. If you're using the V3 golf watch, this wouldn't be a problem because it would basically detect the last tag that you actually used from that location, but I didn't manually tap the pitching wedge onto the device with the H4, so it has recorded that as a sand wedge. I need to change that to a pitching wedge. So how do I do that? Well, what I do is I tap on the stroke, so we see here it's already selected in blue. I'm going to go to the 3 dots here, and I'm going to go where it says club, and you'll see we now get a slightly different view to what we got before. So on screen you're going to see all of your active clubs. This basically means that these are the clubs which are in the My Bag area of your ShotScope account and have been assigned as clubs which you are using. You can have as many clubs as you want in the My Bag area of the ShotScope account, but only a certain amount can be assigned to the tags. So these are the clubs that you're using at any one time. If you tap on all clubs, you'll see your entire My Bag. So these are clubs which I've had before, which I haven't yet removed from my bag because they've got strokes attributed to them. So I can actually select one of these. So let's say, for example, it was my Nike pitching wedge, which I don't have as an assigned club in the My Bag area. I could choose that, but if I go back to active clubs, these are basically just the clubs that I've currently got assigned, and I'm going to select my TaylorMade pitching wedge, and then I'm going to tap continue and then confirm. and that will now update. So it's no longer a sand wedge, it was now my pitching wedge here. Now hopefully you are finding this video tutorial to be useful. If you are, make sure you hit those like and subscribe buttons, and whilst you're there, drop a comment below to let me know what you think of the new editor. Do you prefer it, or would you rather ShotScope had stuck with the previous version that you're used to? Now it's time to get back to this tutorial where we're going to take a look at how to add the penalty strokes that you may not have added whilst out on the golf course. Okay, so I've just jumped to a new hole here because I'm going to show you how you can mark in penalty strokes with the new editor. Let's start off with a lost ball. So let's say, for example, I am on the tee here. So I'm going to zoom in. So I've played a pitching wedge from here, and it has captured it as being just off of the green here for my second stroke. But let's say, for example, in reality, I actually hit my tee shot into these trees on the right hand side and the ball was lost. But instead of marking it at that moment in time using the device, because the device, both the H4 handheld and the V3, has got penalty options built into it, I've just decided I'm going to edit it and add them retrospectively. So how do we do that? Well, first of all, I'm going to go down where we have our pitching wedge. This is our tee shot. I'm going to tap on it, and I'm then going to go into the three dots here, the More menu. So you'll see you get a couple of different options here for penalty strokes. In particular, I'm going to use the lost ball one. So I'm going to tap lost ball, which marks it with a little check. I'm then going to tap on the confirm button, and you will see it adds another line. So let's see where that's going. So I'm going to move up, and you'll see it has marked my first shot here as lost. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tap on that, and I'm going to move it to the position where it was lost. So let's say, for example, it's over here. We're now marking it as lost in the trees, and then if I go back to my tee shot and tap on this one, you will see that it now marks it as a score of 5 instead of 3, and if I tap on the More menu here, you'll see it lists it as the third stroke. So this is now shot 3 because I've hit my third ball off of the tee. If I tap on the cross here, you'll see that I can go back up, and if I've maybe done that in error, let's say for example I didn't actually lose a ball, which was the case here, if I need to delete that, I can tap on it, and then I can just tap on delete down here. What that will then do is if I go back to this stroke here, my initial tee shot, you'll see at the top the score par has changed, but also if I tap on the three dots, it's listed now as stroke 1. So if you need to add in a lost ball, simply tap on the stroke that you made where you lost the ball, then go to the menu here for More, tap on lost ball, and you can then adjust where it is. This works the same as well for drop ball. So let's say for example you've hit a ball into a pond, you can go from the stroke, tap on drop ball, hit confirm, and then what happens is you can move this around. So I'm going to basically mark it as being, let's say the pond is right next to that stroke there, and then if I zoom in, you'll see that this sand wedge, I'm just going to move it a bit closer, this sand wedge would previously have been my second stroke, but when I tap on it and go to More, you'll see it's now listed as 3 because I've taken a drop from the water. So that's how you can add in a drop ball. Now I've jumped to the 6th hole here, and I'm going to show you how you can add in other types of penalties. So let's say 1 or 2 stroke penalties. How do we add those? Well, already we've gone into the tee shots and we've had a look for the options here. So we've had a look at dropping a ball and losing a ball. But how do we just mark a standard penalty? Well, let's go further up and take a look at this stroke here, the sand wedge. Let's say, for example, I had to take a drop here, or I encountered a 1-stroke penalty for something or another. What I can do is I can simply go to this view here by tapping away from any stroke, so I've got nothing selected, and then I'm going to go to the location where I needed to make the penalty or apply the penalty. I'm going to tap on the little plus button that you see at the bottom here, and then I'm going to choose either 1 or 2 stroke penalty. So let's say I'm adding a 1-stroke penalty, I'll just simply tap 1 penalty stroke, and then tap continue, and then it says, okay, tap where the penalty should be placed. So I'm just going to tap next to this one here, and then you'll see it applies it next to it. So we've now gone from a score of 4 on this hole to 5 because we've applied a penalty. If I tap on this penalty stroke here, you'll see that we can delete it using the delete option, and we could go back into the plus button and add a 2-stroke penalty, and then continue, again, choose where it occurs, and we've now gone to a score of 6. So we've added a 2-stroke penalty. So if you need to add penalties, all you do is basically click on the Add button when you've not got a stroke selected, and then use 1 or 2-stroke penalties here. If you need to add a penalty for a lost ball or a drop ball, you tap on the stroke and then the More button, and you add them from in here. Now, so far in this tutorial, we've looked mainly at moving existing shots around and adding penalties. But how do we add a stroke? Let's say, for example, I've been using my H4 handheld and I forgot to tap for one of my strokes, which is quite easy done at times. So I'm going to go to the 7th hole here, and I've made my tee shot here and I've hit it to the back of the green. But let's pretend that actually my tee shot landed in these trees and I need to add a stroke from this position here. So how do we do that? Well, first of all, what I do is I go to that location. So I've basically moved up to here where the trees are. And then I'm going to press the plus button. It then has the option here to choose to add a shot. So we looked in this already to add penalties, but I'm going to find the club that I used. So let's say I tapped out with my 4-iron. Okay, so I'm going to choose in fact, let's say my 5-iron. So tailor-made 5-iron, tap on the 5-iron, and then I'm going to tap on continue. At this point here, it's going to say, okay, where should this shot be placed? So I'm basically going to tap in the trees, and then you'll see it has added. So if I zoom it out, we've got our original tee stroke there, and then we've now got this 5-iron from the trees. Okay, so that's how you can add a stroke in. So you essentially go to the location where you want to add that shot, tap on the plus button, then select your club from the active club list, or if you need to, from all clubs. There's a slight problem here though. I've used my 5-iron, but actually I've only hit it 39 yards, so I don't want this to be included in my performance statistics because it's going to bring the averages down for this particular shot. Now, it's worth noting that any shot like this for a 5-iron, for example, which is under 50 yards, will actually be removed from the performance average for that club anyway, so it shouldn't really matter. However, let's say that actually if we move it here, let's make it 51. Okay, so we'll move this out. Okay, make it 57. So 57 yards is probably going to bring my average for the 5-iron down quite a bit. So I want to make sure that this isn't included in my average stats for that club. So how do I do that? Well, in this case, we need to mark this as a positional shot because I've basically just been knocking out of the trees. It's not a full stroke. So I'm going to tap on the shot to select it, and then going to tap on the More menu, or the 3 dots, and we're going to mark it as positional using the positional option that you see here. So I'll tap positional, and then I'm going to go to confirm, and it will now mark this one as positional. Now, to double check that it's a positional shot, all you do is go back into the More menu and you'll see it's marked with the tick. So now I'm safe with the fact that this will not be included in my average for my 5-iron and hopefully not bring that down. I would say in any case, even though ShotScope will remove any strokes which are under 50 yards, I would still mark these as positional anyway. So let's say, for example, this was in here. If it was my sandwich, for example, to me it makes even more sense to go in and just mark this one as positional. Another use for this might be if you're playing a par 5 and you have hit your second shot to a distance where you could potentially go for the green, but let's say, for example, it's 200 yards and there's a burn in front of the green and you're worried you're going to land in it. You can mark your third stroke as a positional to say to ShotScope, well, actually I was just intending on landing short of the green here, so it won't go down as an attempt as a green in regulation because you're marking that third stroke as a positional on the par 5. So I use it in that way. It's completely up to you, but it's worth knowing about and how to add them. So all you need to do is tap on the stroke, 3 dots, and then go to positional, then confirm, and that one will be marked as a positional. Probably more important though, as I said, from a point of view of your performance averages for the club, if it's over 50 yards, just make sure you mark those as positionals. Now you'll see from the holes at the bottom, we've got a tick next to all of them, which means we have now fully edited our round. There's a save icon here as well, so after you complete each hole, I would recommend tapping on the save icon just to make sure that the app has saved your edits. It's not very often, but occasionally these apps can crash and you don't want to lose any of your edits. So just saving as you go is useful. You'll see there's a cross at the top. If you tap on the cross to close the editor and close the round, it will prompt you to save at that point, but you can also exit without saving if you want to. Now that we've fully edited our round, how do we go about signing off? We'll simply tap on the sign off button at the top right, and it'll take us back to this view here. Now I'm not going to worry about choosing any of these options here because I've gone through them at the start of this tutorial, and this is just a test round, so it doesn't really matter. But you will see there is a question mark at the top right here, and if you tap on that, it will take you to ShotScope's help and support pages for editing and signing off your round. So if after watching this tutorial you've still got some questions when you're using the editor, you can jump in here and you can search, or you can browse through their FAQs here. To get back to the editor, all you do is tap on the back button and it will take you back to this view here. Final thing we need to do is we need to decide if we are wanting to include our round in the course hub and our performance statistics. I don't normally record rounds like this in my statistics because obviously this is just a sample for this tutorial, but in this case I'll leave this one checked so that we can take a look at the statistics generated for this particular round, and then I'll hide them later on. But for now I'm going to tap on sign off, and then what will happen is at this point, if you've earned any medals for your particular round, they will appear. It will let you know that you've achieved some medals, and you'll see the round has now gone from the pencil icon like this one, oops, to the score. So we can see in this one I am +9. If I want to go in and see my performance statistics for this round, well, first of all, we can tell we're able to see our statistics because we don't have the little no statistics sign here. So if I tap on the round, we can then scroll down and we can see our round versus the season. We can see the average for things like the par 3s, 4s and 5s. We can see how many greens and regulations I hit, how many ups and downs, and we can see all of our course statistics if we want to. We can also go into holes and we can see all of the holes that we've played, and we get that kind of map view here, so we can see where we added like that lost ball, for example, or in that case I think it might have been the dropped ball. If I go back to overview here, final thing I want to highlight is how to share your round for social media. So if you tap on the share icon at the top right, you can then go into the various sharing options. So basically you can get this map view here, which shows your score, and it shows a little bit of information about the hole, and you can jump through the different holes here. All you then do is tap on the share button and choose to save this image to your mobile device or to send it to anyone that you want. You can tap on scorecard and you get a full view of your scorecard, so it shows things like the tee, it shows the par, it shows your score, and it will show your total score as well. You can go into the photo option here and you can upload from your photos library. So if you want to change the picture that's attributed to this particular hole, you can do that. You can also take a photo with your camera. And this is for individual holes here. So it tells you at the bottom left what your score in that particular hole was. So treble bogey, bogey, birdie, par. Or you can tap on round and it'll show your total score for the round, pars at the top, number of holes, and the picture, as I said, you can change if you want to. The other thing you can do is you can go to overview, and this will give you your strokes gained for your particular round. So in this case it's versus a tour player, but we can adjust that and say, how did I compare with a 10 handicapper? There's my strokes gained here. So I then just tap on share and I'm able to save this to my device. So there you have it, that's how to edit your round using the newly updated editor within the ShotScope mobile app. If you found this video to be useful, be sure to hit that like button and drop me a comment below if you have any questions about anything covered in this particular video. If you've enjoyed the video and you enjoy the other ShotScope videos that I have, then be sure to hit that subscribe button to support this channel. Next up, if you're looking to learn how to edit your round using the online dashboard on a desktop or laptop computer, then this video tutorial will hopefully help you out.